Welcome back to Down the Road. We got a couple of things left to cover today. The Attorney General joined North Dakota into a lawsuit that basically goes in front of the Supreme Court and makes an argument that the election needs to be in question. So all that's playing out on a national scale. I've heard North Dakota's name mentioned a lot. Well, one of the leaders that we have in North Dakota, one of our 3 elected officials that represent us in Washington, D.C., is Congressman Kelly Armstrong. And he's joined us right now. Congressman, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thanks for having me on. This is kind of a cool format.
Yeah, it is. It's fun. We're just getting used to it, right? The thing of it is, if I could just make $50 for every time I'm told I got a face just made for radio, I'd be a rich man, Kelly. I really would be. Want to talk to you a little bit about, what we just hit on, which is you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat. I get that. You were reelected overwhelmingly. I think it's safe to say that I've always respected you, and you've always treated me with respect. So there's no fighting going on here by me asking you this, but is the election over?
Well, yeah, the election was over on November 3rd, unless you're in New York 22, where they keep finding ballots in desk drawers as it keeps moving on. But the legal process associated with the election isn't over.
Should it be?
I think no. I think you have the right to do all of these things. There's actually 2 cases I'm following. Well, 3, but one was a 3 decision from the Wisconsin Supreme Court. But there was a case filed in Georgia last Friday, which is actually, I think, far and away, even no offense to the Texas Attorney General, the most cogent case that's been filed on behalf of the Trump campaign anywhere in the country. But so you have a Supreme Court issue. Obviously, Pennsylvania had one earlier. The Supreme Court will weigh in. When that happens, it happens. A little concerned in Georgia that nobody's filed a response yet. Feels a little bit like they might be running out the clock, which is oftentimes what happens in these. There's pretty hard deadlines right after an election and as we move up. And there should be. But also at the same time, everybody has an opportunity to use the court system.
Well, you say, which is what oftentimes happens in these, and I got to tell you, Congressman, I'm not used to it. I'm older than you, and I don't remember an election like this where this much has been contested, and that goes back to the 2000 election. So far, the president's record and his legal team's record in all of these lawsuits is 1-55. It's 1-55. You wouldn't even be sent to the minors if that's what your batting average was in baseball. You'd have been sent out and said, go back home and go to work for dad. So 1-55 is an abysmal record. At some point, is it time, and let me use the case that the Texas Attorney General is bringing to the United States Supreme Court. North Dakota threw in on that, and we'll get to that.
17 states. 17 states have
and one of them's mine, and one of them is yours, North Dakota. And so, we've got a situation where we've got a Texas Attorney General who's got legal problems of his own, has gotten states to join in. One of those North Dakota and Wayne Stenjum threw in on, and it's going to the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court won't hear that case, then are you done? Then will you admit to the fact that Joe Biden is president-elect?
Yeah, Joel, I'm a lawyer, right? Once legal challenges are over and there's nowhere else to go as this moves forward, yes. A very good district court judge told me way back when I was practicing criminal law, is like, regardless of how you view the outcome, and sometimes they're not always right because they're smartest, they're right because they're last. When the legal challenges are over, and January 6th, delegates are seated, then regardless of who is president, since I've been alive before I've been elected in politics, and for as long as I move forward, when Inauguration Day comes, whoever's in that seat will be the president of the United States.
So if he's fighting, if President Trump is making a legal challenge on January 19th, will you and others from your side of the aisle still say, well, he's got every right to do it, I will not acknowledge that tomorrow Joe Biden's going to get to be president?
If there's still, I don't think that's realistic in how it goes. I think there are different versions of legal challenges. My colleague Lance Gooden has asked for a special prosecutor or a special investigator to look at these things, but I don't think that will affect the electorate as it's being set right now. So, I would support that. That doesn't mean I'm not going to support the inauguration if it's Joe Biden when he gets inaugurated into president. I came to Congress 2 years after President Trump got elected, served on a judiciary committee where the Democratic members of that committee still wouldn't acknowledge he was president. So, no, I don't think that's healthy for the country. But
So-
I'm never going to begrudge anybody for exhausting their legal remedies.
So I'm
not
gonna
the
use-
least of which is the President of the United States.
I'm gonna use my 9-year-old granddaughter as the example. And trust me, someday when you have grandkids, you'll know why you think of them so much. They go home, by the way. That's the good thing about grandkids. But
My mom tells me the same thing.
my 9-year-old granddaughter is about as bright as they come. And she's in a classroom right now, and they're learning about government. They're learning about democracy. And one of the things that she's seeing splashed all over the news is a president of the United States, every time he can possibly get his fingers to work on his Twitter account, saying that this is a rigged election. Tell me how that is good for America. Tell me how that is good for our democracy.
So I watched this happen, and I have recognized this probably as much. I watched somebody try and set up an incoming NSA agent through the FBI with a 200-year-old act that has never been successfully prosecuted. So, I mean, our president is using Twitter in the court system. So as we walk through this, I have a little bit of trepidation with the absolute, and I'm trying to do it either, right? I spent the first 6 months of being in Congress making sure I don't want other states interfering in North Dakota elections. That was H.R. 1. But I think there's a whole lot of people out here that should take a good hard look in the mirror about how they treated this stuff. Because like I said, I got here 2 years late, and this stuff was all still going on. So, I mean, using Twitter in the court system is a little different than some of the things that I've got the unfortunate opportunity to read and be a part of.
So in the 30 seconds I have left, does that make it all right then?
Hey, I mean, they're using the legal system. Listen, I've been the first person to say, and that actually, I'll tell you, one of the things that's unfortunate, Wisconsin case wasn't a fraud case. The Georgia case isn't a fraud case. There are actual questions about election issues in there. The Georgia case is simply an overwhelming case about the difference in tainted ballots and the number of absentee ballots. It's not a fraud case. So, yeah, I wish the rhetoric was a little more specific about what we were dealing with. I really do. I've always said that.
But 3 times in Georgia, they counted the ballots. The Republican Secretary of State and his people validated the ballots. And yet we're sitting there with people having their homes and their lives threatened. I mean, at some point, Congressman, this has to end.
If you want to argue that some of the cases that have been filed haven't been that great, you're not going to get an argument from me. That's the problem, though, right? The case that was filed on Friday is without a doubt the most cogent legal case filed. But in order to do that, you have to collect the information, collect the data, and deal with it. And then you run into these back timelines of December 8th, Safe Harbor, December 14th, all of that. So there are real issues that go there. And like I said, you're not going to get a disagreement with me that some of these cases shouldn't have been filed and that some lawyers should spend more time in a courtroom and less time in press conferences. I'll agree with that.
Do you think the Supreme Supreme Court hears the case that Wayne Stanjum's making?
I don't know. They're asking for some pretty novel things, and I don't know, but I think they are very conscious of what the deadlines are moving forward.
Okay. Congressman, go shoot some birds when you get home this weekend, okay?
I'm going to keep working in D.C. for the rest of the day. Try and get home tomorrow.
Okay. Congressman Kelly Armstrong, ladies and gentlemen.